Hey, hi, this is Christy, and you're following my weight loss journey and other ways I'm sticking to routines, even though I have ADHD. Plenty of other reasons to fail. Currently testing out my bracelet method, and we had a little bit of a wackadoodle week, because of hormone things. I'm going to address that next time, because we know that this bracelet is not the whole diet plan. It's actually just a guide that can help you with whatever other weight loss methods you're using. So I use, general macro watching and stuff like that. I try to plan things out, reasonably. But I'm a girl who likes hot wings, so I also do a better is better method where, this morning I had the rest of my hot wings. I had 3 at a time, so it's like spaced out a little bit. And I bake them at a high temperature on a rack instead of frying them, which helps reduce the fat content by quite a bit. And then I don't use ranch, and I just dip them in the hot sauce. So that's like a 3-prong method just to get away with eating 3 wings, which would otherwise really not be the best macros. Like I only counted it to a 3 because that's where my fullness took me to. That was 3 wings, whole wing to tip wings. So technically like 6 wings plus the extra top. And, but that's only a 3. So I thought I'd kind of mention that, we do want to stick with the points, and that's all great and fine, but we're also trying to watch macros. So if you want to get away with like a little sneaky cheaty meal, you might want to try smaller portions, spreading them out, adding things like high fiber later in the day or even with the meal. Maybe have a couple bites of low-fat cottage cheese if you're still craving some protein. Maybe have like an apple if you haven't had fiber lately, or something like that, just to kind of even it out. It's a fun method, but it's still just part of like I said, your otherwise healthy range of eating. I'm still working on all of that, but I've got positive results. I think it's been like 2 days, full days of being back on track with the bracelet, and I had gotten all the way back up to like 160 pounds. I'm back down to, in those 2 days, because easy come, easy go, plus bloating and all that stuff like that was going on, I'm already back down to 154. So I'm honestly thinking we're going to be back down to 152 soon. I also think that 152 might have been a little artificial because I had been hovering under my points because I was sick, which could have then triggered a quick reverse effect and all that junk. And so, it's all going to be dynamic. And weight loss always is. Even skinny people, you don't know this, but most of the skinny people or thin people, naturally thin people I knew, had some form of fluctuation in their weight, usually around the holidays. One of them I knew, he used fasting methods and extreme weight loss tips that he would lose 15 pounds before the holidays, gain 30 pounds throughout the holidays, and then lose 15 pounds after the holidays, which would even him back out. This man was a physicist who worked for some big astro companies, and he was fantastic and smart man, and that was his method. So not all skinny people recognize their method, but most of them will hop on a scale every once in a while and notice that they're 5 pounds up or down, give and take. They just don't necessarily track it. They're doing it kind of mentally, in even like a subconscious kind of way. They don't even have to, I've noticed that they'll be like, come on guys, I do eat, and they're just basically describing a heavy feeding day, and every other day that week they were on a nice slight deficit, so that feeding day did nothing to them. Plus, if they did gain 5 pounds, it would just come right off the next week as soon as they returned to their regular eating, just like how my binge week literally took it up to 160 and we're already down 5 pounds in 2 days. That's how quickly that came right back down off of there. I had all sorts of fun and did all that stuff, and yeah, I just got away with it as far as I'm concerned. So things are going very, very well. I've got the bracelets in. I realized that not everybody's going to need an 8-inch bracelet. A lot of them might need a 7-inch bracelet, so I put those on order, and I've handed out more samples. We're going to give these out in sort of a soft scientific way. I know a lot of times when you hear, oh, we're going to do a study, you want people like tracking and stuff like that. But actually, tracking and stuff like that can affect weight loss in itself, And so we're going with a much more organic way. I'm giving them basic instructions, which you saw in the video They can reach out to me if they need any tips. They can follow me and see what I'm doing when I want to get away with stuff and stuff. And we're trying to see what happens when we don't over instruct them how to do it, when we don't force them to chart. We want to see the actual natural effects of the bracelet, and this is all just, again, super initial testing. So we've got it going out to just different various people for different reasons. Some of them are undereaters, some of them are overeaters, some of them are anxious eaters, just different kinds of things. And we just want to see regulation, eating as much as possible. And we also want to just kind of be aware when we're not regulated, so that we understand that we don't need to freak out, that it's not your body trying to harm you. And if you are eating perfectly regulated and you've got your macros in order and you've been following the plan and it's not working, you probably need to contact your physician. And that's why we always recommend that everything be done under the direction of a physician. There is always the potential that there is something drastically wrong with you in another way. You know, we don't know what's going on. You could have a tumor growing in your stomach, and that's what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So anytime you notice something where like the regular things that should be working, it's not a good idea to be like, oh, that's just because I'm 40. Oh, that's just because I'm a woman. Oh, that's just because those are red flashing signals with flags attached to them. So we're hoping that this works. We're still early initial testing. I'm making a batch of beans, only I'm making them with bone broth. And I'm going to, basically if you add a box of bone broth and a pound of beans and you make those all together, and then you make like 8 burritos out of it with a slice of half cheese, and you can like green chili and garlic them up as you like. It ends up being like something like 400 calories each, plus something like almost 28 grams of protein. It might be just a little bit lower, so nice and satiating. I'm going to be meal prepping those for the week so that I can have like just a nice high fiber, highly satiating, good meal that'll get me through. And I don't know, that's pretty much the only updates there are today. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're having a fantastic Sunday and that you're treating yourself so nicely. Cheers.